Richard prided himself on being a diligent property manager. Over the years, he had overseen dozens of high-end real estate projects, ensuring they ran seamlessly. But Haven Towers, an upscale residential complex nestled in the heart of Lagos, was different. It was his most ambitious project to date, boasting luxury apartments, state-of-the-art amenities, and an exclusive clientele. However, beneath the shimmering glass facade of Haven Towers, a ticking time bomb. 6 months before the fateful incident, Richard had conducted a routine safety inspection at Haven Towers. What he found disturbed him. The fire suppression system was outdated and leaking. Smoke detectors in common areas had dead batteries or didn't work at all. Several fire extinguishers had expired. The emergency stairwells were cluttered with furniture from an ongoing renovation project. Alarmed, Richard prepared a detailed report and presented it to Mr. Kelvin, the wealthy but notoriously stingy owner of Haven Towers. Kelvin Properties prides itself on excellence, Richard began during their meeting, but if we don't act fast, we're sitting on a disaster waiting to happen. Mr. Kelvin barely looked up from his phone. How much will all this cost? Roughly $8 million. We need to replace the fire suppression system, install new detectors, and ensure the emergency exits are accessible. $8 million, Mr. Kelvin scoffed. Richard, we're already over budget. Besides, we've never had a fire incident here. Let's not create problems where there are none. Focus on selling the remaining units. Frustrated but bound by his limited authority, Richard complied, hoping that nothing would go wrong. The weeks leading up to the fire were uneventful. Residents of Haven Towers went about their daily lives, oblivious to the building's vulnerabilities. Among them was the Thompson's family. Martins, a software developer, his wife, Mabel, a nurse, and their bubbly 3-year-old daughter, Tenny. They had just moved into the 9th-floor apartment, excited to start a new chapter in their lives. Richard often saw them during his rounds. Tenny would wave enthusiastically, and Mabel always greeted him with a warm smile. They were one of the reasons he loved his job, helping families find their dream homes. But little did he know, their story would soon become a nightmare. It was a humid Friday evening when the unthinkable happened in apartment 103. An elderly tenant had plugged in a faulty space heater. Sparks flew, igniting a small fire that quickly spread to nearby curtains. At first, the tenants dismissed the faint smell of smoke. By the time someone realized what was happening, the fire had already spread to the corridor. Chaos erupted as panicked residents scrambled to evacuate. The building's fire alarm, silent for years due to lack of maintenance, failed to sound. The sprinklers, clogged with debris, did nothing to contain the flames. Worse still, the emergency exits on the lower floors were blocked by renovation materials, leaving residents with limited escape routes. Richard received the first call at 11:45 p.m. A resident screamed into the phone, "The building is on fire, we're trapped." Heart pounding, he rushed to the scene. The sight that greeted him was horrifying. Flames engulfing the lower floors, thick black smoke billowing into the night sky, and terrified residents leaning out of their windows, screaming for help. When Richard arrived, firefighters were battling the inferno, but their efforts were hindered by the building's poor safety infrastructure. The fire hydrants on site were dry, forcing them to rely on distant water sources. Determined to help, Richard braved the smoke-filled stairwells. Guiding residents to safety, he covered his nose with a damp cloth and climbed floor after floor, knocking on doors and shouting for anyone still inside. On the 9th floor, he found the Thompsons family. The hallway outside their apartment was a wall of fire, cutting off their escape route. Martins held a sobbing Tenny in his arms, while Mabel frantically searched for another way out. "We're trapped," Martins yelled, his voice breaking. Richard assessed the situation. The windows were their only option, but the landlord had installed metal bars to deter burglars. There was no way to break through them. "In time, I'll get help," Richard promised, his voice trembling, but deep down, he knew it was too late. By dawn, the fire was out, but the damage was catastrophic. 5 lives were lost, including the Thompsons family. Dozens of residents were injured, and the building was reduced to a charred skeleton. News of the tragedy spread like wildfire, sparking public outrage. Investigations revealed gross negligence, faulty fire safety systems, blocked exits, and a complete disregard for regulatory standards. Mr. Kelvin was arrested and charged with criminal negligence. For Richard, the tragedy is a personal and professional blow. Although he had repeatedly warned about the dangers, he couldn't shake the guilt of not doing more to prevent the disaster. Months later, Richard stood before a packed auditorium, Addressing a group of property managers and real estate developers at a fire safety seminar, "Fire doesn't discriminate," he began. "'Tis voice steady but laced with emotion. It doesn't care about your building's architecture or your bottom line. It only takes, and what it takes, you can never replace." He shared the harrowing story of Haven Towers, urging his audience to prioritize safety over profits. Neglecting fire safety is like gambling with lives. It's not a matter of if something will go wrong, but when. The tragedy had changed him forever. Richard became a vocal advocate for fire safety in property and facility management, dedicating his career to ensuring no other family would suffer the same fate. The story of Haven Tower serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of negligence in property management in a world where profits often take precedence. It underscores the critical importance of prioritizing lives above all else. Fire safety is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Cutting corners today could cost lives tomorrow. Property and facility management perspective. From the property and facility management viewpoint, the tragedy at Haven Towers exposes critical flaws: neglect of preventive maintenance, outdated fire suppression systems, non-functional smoke detectors, and blocked exits highlight the consequences of failing to perform routine inspections and maintenance. Inadequate emergency planning. The lack of an effective fire safety plan, evacuation drills, and functional equipment proved catastrophic. Cost-cutting over safety. The owner's reluctance to invest in necessary upgrades created a dangerous environment, emphasizing that safety should never be compromised for financial gains. Accountability of managers. While Abukun raised concerns, the inability to enforce compliance highlights the need for property managers to have greater authority to implement safety measures. Moral perspective. The story delivers powerful moral lessons: value of human life over profit, prioritizing financial savings over safety measures led to preventable deaths. Human life must always come first. The cost of complacency. Ignoring warning signs and assuming it won't happen to us can have dire consequences. Responsibility to protect. As stewards of properties, both owners and managers have a moral duty to protect the lives of occupants and ensure a safe environment. Legal perspective. The legal ramifications in the story are severe and highlight several key points. Criminal negligence. Mr. Banjo's arrest underscores the legal consequences of failing to adhere to fire safety regulations. Legal perspective. The legal ramifications in the story are severe and highlight several key points. Criminal negligence. Mr. Banjo's arrest underscores the legal consequences of failing to adhere to fire safety regulations. Regulatory compliance. Building codes and fire safety laws exist to prevent such disasters. Non-compliance exposes owners and managers to lawsuits, fines, and criminal charges. Duty of care. Property owners and managers have a legal obligation to ensure their properties meet safety standards. Failure to fulfill this duty is a breach of the law. Insurance implications. Relying on insurance without maintaining safety standards can lead to claims being denied, further compounding financial and legal troubles. Lessons learned. The tragedy of Haven Towers offers several crucial lessons: proactive safety measures, regular inspections, maintenance of fire safety equipment, and adherence to safety standards are non-negotiable. Emergency preparedness. Buildings must have clear evacuation plans, accessible fire exits, and well-maintained safety systems to prevent loss of life during emergencies. Advocacy and education. Property managers must actively educate property owners about the importance of safety investments and lobby for stricter enforcement of safety regulations. Ethical responsibility. Managers must balance profitability with the ethical responsibility to protect lives. The cost of inaction. While implementing safety measures may seem expensive, the cost of inaction, both in human lives and financial losses, is far greater. In conclusion, the Haven Towers disaster serves as a cautionary tale for property and facility managers, real estate owners, and society at large. Stresses the importance of prioritizing fire safety to avoid preventable tragedies, ensuring compliance with legal requirements, and upholding moral and ethical obligations to protect lives and property. If you find this story enlightened, please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel for more content on property, facility and real estate management business tips. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. God bless you.